Hello, welcome to the rest of my life. I'm Lance Ash, and upon reflection, I think that last week's episode was an interesting experiment, but I won't be doing that again. It was too much of a pain in the ass. Anyway, I had some topics written down, but ooh, there was a skunk on the side of the road. Ooh. Looked almost like a badger. Anyway, I can't remember what all the topics were. One of them was the Beatles. I guess that got brought up because of the recent Get Back project being broadcast. I haven't seen it. I've seen snippets. But before I get into that, something made me think of the band Tesla. And no, it wasn't anything to do with Elon. I can't think what it was. That's funny. Oh, I know what it might have been. Yeah. I was on the computer with my wife signed into it, and I was watching something on YouTube, and her whatever they call it, her playlist of regular songs was up on the suggestions on the side, and the Tesla song Love Song was listed. So I played it, and that got me to thinking, well, I'm not really familiar with their videos beyond that one. So I went to the official site, and I kind of lost track of them after the album Bust a Nut came out. I thought it was a pretty good record. I think I used to have it on cassette even. But anyway, because right after that record, grunge and then alternative came in, and all those bands that were popular in that era, the so-called hair metal bands, got dropped, defunded. Everybody turned their backs on them. And the funny thing is, out of all those bands, Tesla was the one that could have made a go of it, especially in the grunge era, because they had this working man's image. And I don't know how they could have done it, but it could have been done. But anyway, so I was surprised to see all the records they've put out since then. Anyway, so on their YouTube page, they have a video that came out in August for the song Cold Blue Steel, and I watched it 3 times. I was really amazed because it was really good. And it wasn't, when I say really good, I mean it wasn't hackneyed. It was a product, that's for sure. It was a squarely put together machine, if you know what I mean. But then there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it's not ham-handed garbage. But it was really good. So anyway, it's got me in the mood to listen to some of their stuff. I've got all their records up till Bust a Nut. I don't know that I would spend money on any of the stuff since then. But, because spending money is not my thing. And I'd forgotten they did a song on the Last Action Hero soundtrack, which is a better soundtrack than it needed to be. I mean, it's got the last great AC/DC song on it, and it's got a really good Megadeth song on it, and it's got a really good Anthrax song on it. Anyway, so I'll tell you something else about Tesla. When their second album came out, the Great Radio Controversy, had pictures of the band in there. And there's a picture of Jeff Keith, the singer. And I would have been 19 when that came out. And at that time period, I would have killed to look like that. Really skinny, tan, straight, long hair. It's funny because, I mean, I probably looked more like that than I realized at the time. But anyway, he's still really thin. God, he's really got some age in his face now. And that's another thing about the video, the most recent video. They all looked older, and some of them look fatter, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you get a little older and a little heavier, and you just throw it into people's faces like, this is what I look like, so tough crap. Yeah, that's fine. If you try to hide it, and, that's when the problems start. Anyway, it's funny how many of those bands at the time, they were crap at the time. And although some of them, it was more obviously crap than others. But anyway, going back to the Beatles, it's really amazing, isn't it, that they're still probably the greatest band ever. And it's not just, oh well, that's the position reserved for them. We give them lip service, but just in terms of influence, continued presence, and the fact that all four of them, even Ringo, were so phenomenally talented and such larger than life personalities. It's really amazing. From what I saw, I saw the little piece of the video where they're working on the song "Octopus's Garden," which is a Ringo song, and John gets behind the drums and Ringo gets on the piano. It's amazing. If it would have been interesting, and I know this is foolish to say, but it would have been interesting if Ringo had taken over for Keith Moon in The Who. It would have been interesting if Ringo's film career had really taken off. Because he really had screen presence, and he really I don't know. He should have quit drinking 10 years earlier. That's the main thing. I was such a Beatles fanatic when I was 16, 17. I ought to just talk about the hair metal days. Because that, right when I broke free of the Beatles, Stones, Who straitjacket and began listening to current music, the pop metal bands of the mid to late 80s were in their ascendancy. And so that's primarily what was my focus as far as contemporary music is concerned. And even back then, I could tell certain bands were just crap. Warrant was horrible. Just horrible. I was a big fan of LA Guns for a while. But, you know, one of the things that's so distracting and irritating about that era of music, era of metal, is all the visual trappings, that hair poking straight up, and the costumes, and more than that, just the sort of attitude that was like de rigueur back then. It was irritating. Oh my God, do you remember the video for, oh Christ, I can't remember. It was a Poison song, and in the song, this poor, sad Vietnam veteran in his wheelchair. Oh, he's so sad. And then all of a sudden, through the power of Poison's music, he's dancing around, and it was embarrassing. It was just insulting. They were a shitty band. God damn. First concert I ever saw was Rat and Poison, and it was horrible. It was just awful. Poison sucked, and the singer for Rat was horrible. Oh my God. I haven't seen that many concerts in my life. I find them to be an unpleasant experience. But yeah, it was a time period when I had to keep up with everything. The latest release of so many people I had to get. And then it all disappeared. It all went away. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the rural purge of the late 60s, early 70s on television. As Pat Buttram once joked, they got rid of every television show that had a tree in it. Even though all those shows were still popular, they got rid of them because they wanted a different demographic. All those shows' audiences skewed older, and they wanted to get a different audience. And even though all those metal bands were still popular, they dumped them. It's kind of like there's two reasons to me that Sears went under. The main one is they got rid of mail order. And this is closely tied to the second reason. The second reason is they decided that they had the wrong sort of customer. They wanted a higher class of customer. Do you remember the episode of Fawlty Towers where Basil places the ad in the paper and it says no riffraff, and he's arguing with Sybil about the customer, the guest they have, and she says, we're making money, just. And he says, yes, but we're losing tone. And that was what happened with Sears. They're making money, but they were making money from the wrong sort of people. This is what happens when the older crop of executives leaves and a newer crop comes in, and they don't understand it doesn't matter who hands you money as long as you've been handed money. So they tried to upscale, started selling. I remember there came a point when people realized that they had to have a certain brand of jeans, and they weren't going to buy Toughskins anymore. So Sears, finally, they spent all this money to start selling Levi's. And then they got rid of the mail order because that was déclassé. The same thing happened with the metal bands in the late 80s. Because the fans were, admittedly, mostly just uneducated rednecks. Because your serious metal fan liked a little bit of that stuff, but for the most part, they listened to metal that wasn't very appealing to teenage girls. Like no high school girl of that era was going to listen to Coroner. And the funny thing, Motley Crue was one of the kings of that era, and I was a big fan. But they have dropped in my estimation so much. Number one, because I see through the first 3-4 records now. I just, there's not much there left. I mean, my tastes have developed, and I just can't listen to most of it anymore. And number two, because they changed, and I lost whatever ill-deserved respect that I had for them. I remember when Dr. Feelgood came out. The song Dr. Feelgood was great, especially if they had extended that riff at the very end for another 60 seconds and just made it into this sort of funk thing. But the rest of that record was such crap, and the album got praised to the skies. Oh, what maturity they have unveiled. No, they didn't. No. Oh, my God. Their lyrics were so stupid. And getting back around to Tesla, see, Tesla's lyrics weren't that great. It's certainly not always. But they had this undertone of, like I said, working man's ethos and all this. And they could have parlayed that into something. Get rid of the costumes and start wearing just whatever you wear around the house that day on stage. And just sort of start palling around with Pearl Jam. Oh well. Alright. that's about it. So I'll see you next time. Bye bye.